Hello, my friends. We are back. Another live stream. I'm Rachel Archelaus, founder of the Intuitive Art Academy. This is Carrie Roldan, your business BFF. And we are here to talk about overwhelm and avoidance, a topic Carrie and I know very well. And hey, Karina. So good to see you. Hey, Guillaume. Hey, Araniel. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. I have a whole page of notes today because I've been looking into this profusely for the last solid week plus. And this really stems from me seeing a pattern in my own life of like getting to a place where I make a decision to do something and then the absolute opposite happens. It's like I black out and lose focus. And I was like, what is that? I do finish a lot of things, but it's just that particular thing. Is it overwhelm? Is it procrastination? Is it avoidance? What is going on here? And I learned so much that I want to share with you. So you're going to get the pep talk I gave myself the other day and more. And of course, Carrie has stuff to share too.
Yes, I'm always here with color commentary, but I think this is not a funny topic, but like my initial reaction is like, oh, we're going to talk about overwhelm. I'm sick that day. Right? Like, I'll just avoid that topic. No, I'm excited to dive into everything that you said. And I want to tell you that I think for me, the struggle around this is probably what you were talking about, where it is when am I not doing something because I'm not in alignment with it? And when am I truly avoiding? And something interesting happened this week. There are chores, there are tasks that I have to do in my life that I would prefer not to. Pretty much anything like administrative or like dealing with like handling the minutia, the details. So like as I'm like, hey, we should do this, and then is like someone else do that. Like I don't want to be the one in charge of pushing the buttons or making it happen. And so anyways, I had felt like, oh, I think I'm avoiding this, like maybe I'm okay, I'll just make myself do it. And it's not a very big thing, but I did it, and now it has turned into a big thing. Like I did it, I think, when I wasn't in alignment, clearly, because I made like stupid errors that aren't a big deal. Like everything will get worked out, but like I created a ton of work for myself, which has just sort of reinforced the idea that like, now this whole thing is just overwhelming. I should just avoid it altogether. So I'm actually doing quite well with the big things in my life that I want to avoid, but it's these little nitpicky things that I am recognizing. Oh, I am there. So Rachel, lay it on me.
Well, let's start there, right? Like, I think one of the overall things that I love to practice every day is being easy on myself, being gentle on myself. I think as a rule, we expect way too much from ourselves in terms of like keeping up with others' expectations, doing things for other people, living productive lives, and being superstars when we're still figuring all this stuff out about ourselves. Like, we are superstars, we do have huge potential, but we don't need to have all of that crystallized today, right? So, being gentle on ourselves. I was thinking this morning how back in the day, even when I was a kid, without the internet, right? People pretty much had one job. They had one, usually, long-term relationship. You had a couple friends, you knew their phone numbers, you called them on the phone. We didn't have a ton of options. If you had a side hustle, it was a very deliberate side hustle because you couldn't just start a business online in 10 minutes. And what did you do? You had some options. I can call a friend right now. I can take a nap, read a book, watch a TV program, go outside. Other than that, it's kind of it, right? Now we have like a million things we could be doing, and a lot of that has turned into a should. So we almost unconsciously try to keep up with the pace of life in a way that totally has us avoiding our feelings. Like Carrie was saying, she knows she's not into this stuff. She knows it's not her priority. It's not in alignment with her. It's not authentic to her to be doing this. So all signs point to this can be someone else's job who it will be in alignment with. And she did it anyway. We've all been there. We all do things because we think we have to. It'd just be easier if I did it. But it's never the case. So sometimes something's just not in our alignment. It's not in our best interest to do it. And I think that is the first place to go when you're like, why am I so lazy? Why is things hard for me? Why don't I have time? Why am I procrastinating? Ask yourself, is this really for me to do, or am I shoulding myself into this? Carrie has this great statement about shoulds. You want to share that?
Yes. And why I have another thing on my list, Rachel. This is like literally like I keep moving it on my list because I feel like I should do it. Doesn't seem like it would be that hard for me. I am very capable of doing it. And now I'm like, oh, thank God. Because yes, when something feels like a should, you can change the word should to, so if it's like, I should really take my clothes to the dry cleaners. You take that phrase and you say, if I really wanted to, I could take my clothes to the dry cleaners. And then you get to see how that feels. And so usually it brings some excitement or some relief because either I do really want to take my clothes to the dry cleaners. I actually have time right now. Like, yes. Or if I really wanted to, I could, but I totally don't want to right now. So it's okay for me to not do it. That brings relief. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, exactly. Like if it's something that's going to be beneficial for you to do, there will be that spark within you, that little bit of resonance, like a little smile or relief or excitement, or like a lot of times I categorize it as like, yeah, it's maybe not like exciting, but it's like, yeah, I do want to do that right now. It gives me a little bit of life, right? You want your tasks to give you life, if possible. It's not always possible. I know we're not talking about like, your day job or how you support yourself in other ways. Like that's another topic we'll deal with in another day. But for right now, this is about what you have control over right now. Like the bigger things take a little bit more time, but this conversation can definitely help ease up those areas so you can see what options you have.
So I unmuted to say something and then my phone rang. But yes, and here's what when you were saying it's like I was remembering an anecdote from something that someone once told me about human design. So Jana, if you are here, chime in the chat about there are some people's human design where they have a natural or to like making those sounds helps them know, is it a or so that might be helpful to you.
I love that. Yes. So it's about getting to know yourself, right? And letting yourself off the hook. You're probably going to have to face some things you think you have to do. I have to do this for blah, 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 because no one else will do it. I have to support them. I'm not a good person if I don't do this for them, if I don't give myself up for them. So those are bigger things. And if you can start to recognize what your truth is, like when you say those things to yourself, how does it feel? Does it feel life-giving? Then that's your truth. Doing that thing for that person is most beneficial for you. It is in alignment for you. It will bring you joy. It's on your path of least resistance. You are in the right direction. But if when you say things like that, like I once had a hard decision to make to please my mom, and I knew it didn't feel good. I knew I didn't want to do it. I knew it was like this pit in my stomach. It was a no for me. And I did it anyway, and it didn't end good for anybody. It wasn't good for anybody. So these things can be difficult, but once you give yourself some grace to know, okay, what is my truth here? It doesn't mean I have to follow that. I can know my truth and still do the behavior that isn't it. But it's just about awareness. It's about awareness so that you are making an empowered choice. And you can make an empowered choice in a direction that doesn't feel good. That's okay. So again, ease up on yourself. Like, take a breath. You don't have to change anything overnight, but having awareness of why you're doing something can be really, really, really helpful.
I love what you just said about the awareness piece, because that is massive for me to remember. Oh, like there are tasks that I'm probably still going to choose to do, because even though it's not in my wheelhouse, like it is probably the path of least resistance right now, right? But I can relax and remember, this is, I don't need to become, it's over, it feels overwhelming to me because it's not my wheelhouse, and I can relax. And like that, I think is super helpful. And in the future, because a lot of the things that are on my list right now, right, I like made commitments. In the future, I won't make these commitments. And that is what is game changing. And it's funny. So I will just say, it is not surprising to me that the things that currently have me feeling, I wouldn't even say them overwhelmed. They just are this thing that has been staying on my list for a really long time. So it's like this open loop that lives right above my head. I forget what I was saying about that. Just that it's not surprising that these things, like this isn't new information to me. It's just me recognizing like, oh, I let go. I loosened my boundary there. Or I wasn't aware. I wasn't in full awareness when I went ahead and agreed to do that. So it's super helpful information of like, oh yeah, more often I can be present and listen to myself in the moment, because probably someone said, hey, can you do this? And I was like, okay, yeah, I guess. Or yeah, sure, I'll put it on my list. Instead of like, gosh, that is just not really for me. So thanks. And I see a big comment in the comments right now.
Yeah, actually, so I want to mention one point and then I want to get to Melissa, because that is basically, I think, what we're going to talk about today. But something that made me feel a lot better about a week ago is I heard a neuroscientist talk about how once we have more than 9 choices, our brain shuts off. So it may seem like, well, of course I never have 9 choices. But like I was saying earlier, we grew up maybe not having more than 9 choices. But now, should I go on my phone? Should I do some marketing? Should I figure out my retirement fund? Should I call my friend? Should I call back my parents? Should I go for a walk? Should I exercise? Or more or less, I should be filling in the blank with whatever is on your mind. Because when we're in a cycle of overwhelm and avoidance, usually those things that we should be doing come back whenever we take a break, whenever we have a moment to pause. It's like, you should be more productive. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. So next time you're in that cycle, write it all down. What is it that I think I should be doing all the time? And you're probably going to see more than 9 things. So even if it's not like, okay, it's time to eat dinner, I'm overwhelmed. Well, maybe you have too many options there, and a little bit of meal planning can help. Like, this is a time to think about, okay, I'm aware now. I've got my list of all the things I think I should be doing that are definitely weighing me down. And now for the practical things, like when I show up to dinner, or when I'm, putting together my clothes in the morning, or when I have some free time, like, you can not all at once, but start to recognize, like, I could do a little bit of planning in each area, not all at once. Don't try to tackle this all at once, but like when I get to it, I can make my life easier through a little bit of organizing, one moment at a time, one step at a time. And I can like cull this and focus more on my priorities. Like with me, I have to do this every few weeks. I have a catch-up day in my business because I'm a creative nightmare. Like, I just create all kinds of wonderful things and I love it and I have so much fun. And then all of a sudden I have a million open projects in my bullet journal that like haven't been crossed off or highlighted. And I'm like, oh man, this is really gonna eat at me. So I go through as many as I can in as fun a way as I can, but I just make it a point to like cull the open loops in my life. I try to remember to like do some meal forecasting before I go to the grocery store, so I'm not just like looking at everything with my tongue hanging out. Like I'm a person that leans more on the like ADHD side of things. Not that I'm self-diagnosing, but from what it seems like, I'm more in that kind of sphere. So I love options. I love spontaneity. I love all of that stuff. And so I have to have a little bit more organization for myself so I don't get overwhelmed.
Okay, you're making me laugh so hard because we're like the opposite. Because speaking of grocery stores, so I can totally relate to the having more than 9 options when it comes to the grocery store. So like I used to shop at, in California it's Vaughn's, but the Kroger, the Piggly Wiggly, the whatever that is near you, that is the big grocery store, right? That like the supermarket, the massive store that has all the options. And then when my kids were really little, a store moved into our neighborhood called Fresh and Easy. I don't think they exist anymore, but they were like these little teeny tiny grocery stores. And I loved it because it was small. There were very few options, but they had everything that I needed. And ever since then, I cannot go back to like a big grocery store. Like I feel completely overwhelmed and I can't buy anything. Like I now only shop, like I will go to a Trader Joe's because it's smaller and there's few things, or there's a few various stores around here that are smaller stores with less options that I'm like, okay, I can be relaxed in here. So I'm totally relating to that and wondering why you're ADD. I'm also remembering, speaking of ADD brains, I'm also remembering one of my favorite California lottery commercials is a man standing in front of the cheese section at the grocery store and seeing the million options of cheese and being like, I could totally afford all this cheese. I love that. But anyways, I am different than you in that I do not want a ton, or maybe our brains are the same, but the my ADD experiences it. I experience my ADD in not wanting options.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's a great example, right? Like gently, without pressure, figure out what works for you. You don't have to do it like everybody else does it. And I find some organization, like keeping a list of what I want at the store, like having a mental list of the recipes I make, once a week, just helps me. When I forget to do that before I go to the store, like when I forget to be intentional, I'm all over the place and I don't have as much fun. So, and also my partner calls me his grocery store fairy because I am a lot of fun in the grocery store and I don't want to deprive him of that. So, okay. We're getting there, Melissa. We're getting there. We're getting to trauma. So I'm going to say my little intro here and then we'll read your comment. So something that I learned over the last week I'm going to give a huge shout out here to a YouTube channel called Crappy Childhood Fairy. I love her. I love her so much because the one pattern that I was looking to get more clarity on, which I already discussed earlier, is like I make a decision to focus on one thing and then it's gone from my consciousness. Like it's like, where did you go? And then I remember it a week later, a month later, and I'm like, oh wait, I was gonna do that. That's what I wanted to see what that was all about, and I found it. So it's called dysregulation. Basically, where the reasoning part of your brain shuts off and goes into the more emotional brain. And for me, I freeze. So there's no emotion, no memory, no recollection. That's just how it works for me. It's like a short circuit in my nervous system. But for some people, it leads to emotion. Some people, this dysregulation, it can be triggered by a lot of things. We're going to talk about one today, but it leads to like, how we have these big emotional outbursts for like a very seemingly little trigger, whether it's anger or sadness or anything, right? So it's basically just an overreaction of the emotional part of us, whether that leads to no emotion or lots of emotion, based on something that seems pretty insignificant, which for me, a commitment, right? It could be praise as well. Like I have a couple triggers that send me over there. But one of them, which is what I want to talk about today, happens to be hurrying and procrastination. So procrastination leads to hurrying. Hurrying is a really big trigger for this dysregulation. So if you live in that state of like kind of always trying to catch up or putting things off because they're probably not in alignment and then having to deal with them, you're probably dealing with a lot of dysregulation. And that's really just an undermining thing. It's going to sabotage you, for lack of a better word, and you're not going to be able to make any progress. And that could be so disheartening, and you can really take it personally, which is what a lot of people do. What's wrong with me? Why am I like this? Um, and this lady focuses on, so why do we have this? How do we develop this? Um, a lot of it stems from childhood trauma. So she calls it childhood PTSD. It's also just another way of saying chronic PTSD, where we're having like repeated neglect, abuse, other kinds of things as children. And so our brains get wired in this protective manner, in this overreactive manner, in this hypervigilant manner. So I think it's helpful to just like take a breath. If this resonates with you, if you want to learn more, go to her channel. I'm not an expert. I just learned about all of this. I'm learning with you, but it's really helped me to see why my patterns are the way they are and many, many more that I have found from this lady. And she talks about it in a way that I love, which is like, okay, yes, it's because of bad things that happen, but we're not going to focus on that. We're going to acknowledge it, but we're going to focus more on how to fix this all up, how to change this. And that's what I love. She's very future forward and like, all right, now we're going to just move on from there, which is great. So highly recommend her. She has lots and lots of videos. Okay.
So that was Crappy Childhood Fairy.
Crappy Childhood Fairy. I linked her below in case you want to go find it.
That's so great. What a great name for a YouTube channel. Like
Totally.
good branding. Good for her.
Okay, so Melissa's already relating to this, but I'm going to share her comment now. Overwhelm around making any decision, panicking, even right now, over is this the right used car for me? I've tried methods and nothing is working. Probably trauma from past decisions and probably trauma from other people's decisions when you were a little kid, right? Like, here we go again with like a self-blaming kind of thing, which may be true, who knows? But like also let's ease up on ourselves today and give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. And even our parents, this isn't about parent bashing. This is about just, we're all adults here and we can take responsibility without blaming ourselves or anyone else and just like seek solutions. So this is rough. This is about not trusting yourself and also this pattern, right? This like never ending pattern of, okay, maybe I can feel that this is the right one, but then, oh, no, it's not. It can't be. There's a reason. Like, I don't know. So, yeah, I would say this is probably a loop that's very uncomfortable, it seems. And maybe that lady's YouTube channel will be able to help you with that. And I would across the board recommend meditation, journaling, like noticing, finding your feelings, seeing how you feel about things as a general rule to just help you become more sensitive to yourself so that you can see, oh, this is definitely a trigger. This is how I feel then. This is how I feel after this happens, because that will give you more information.
Am I unmuted?
Mm-hmm.
So Karina is saying the same thing. She says, it's like I don't trust myself to make the right decision. And so it's interesting, right? Because Rachel and I spend a lot of time saying, you can trust yourself. You can trust yourself, right? And my guess is that when you hear that, you're even like going, well, I don't know if she's talking to me. Like, can I really trust myself? Right. And so I don't know if this is just an interesting thing, because I feel like those beliefs don't come from nowhere. Like, it's not just like you were born inherently untrustworthy. And because I work with high schoolers and high school athletes, we spend a lot of time talking about, like, race strategy and when to do what and blah, blah, blah. But I ultimately say, like, you have to teach yourself that you can be trusted, right? And you're teaching yourself that you can be trusted all of the time. And so, but if, like, for example, if you grew up with a parent who tells you, like, oh, you're such a flake or you're so unreliable, right? You have to teach yourself that you can be trusted through your behaviors, right? Through, like, actually, I'm not a flake. I showed up to practice on time every day for the past month. I am totally not a flake. My behaviors shows that I'm not a flake. But so anyways, when it comes to the car, when it comes to any of, like, where we are now, one, it just might be helpful to, like, look back and be like, what are all the things that actually show me I can be trusted? I can be trusted to get to work on time, because your brain will want to go to all the places where you, like, screwed up, right? It'll want to go there. It'll want to go to all the reasons why you can't be trusted, like all the mistakes that you've made in the past. That's, your brain will go there because there's already sort of this, like, inherent bias. If you don't think you can trust yourself, you're already biased against yourself. So it's your job to remind yourself, to show yourself of all the really great decisions that you've made, all the times that you were, like, afraid to make a decision, but you made it and it actually worked out really well. All that, right? It's like, it's our job, just like, we talk about with the law of attraction, we have to look for evidence of what we want to be true. That is exactly what exactly what I'm talking about right now, in terms of, like, you can be trusted. Of course you can be trusted, because you're you and it's your freaking life and you're in charge of it. And even if you think you're screwing it up, you're not, because you're on your path. And what Abraham says, right? You can't get it wrong, and it's never going to be done. So you can relax and you can be trusted. And I think what my pattern, let's take the car, is when something seems like it's a big decision that has big financial repercussions. What if it doesn't work out? What if it breaks down all the time? What, right? Like, it feels scarier, but the truth is, like, you do know. Like, you knew from the very beginning, and then you turned it into a big thing. Right? So anyways, that's two things in one. You already know, so relax, remember what you know, and look for evidence of all the ways that you are totally trustworthy. Did I steal your thunder, Rachel?
No, gosh, you never do. I love it.
I'm letting my dog in.
Okay. So, one of the ways that I use to make big decisions is the yes no technique. And I used this when I bought my RV. And I just have to say, I was terrified of buying that RV. I had sold my beautiful, reliable car, and I was using the money that I got from that to buy, like, a 20-year-old uh, huge vehicle. It was 10 feet tall, and like, the big tires were raised up, and the steering wheel went like this and still, like, went straight. It was, like, so different from my little tiny sports car. And it was highly desirable. So I had to make a decision right there. There was another person waiting for it outside of her house if I didn't say yes. But I'd never driven anything like that. And I've driven big trucks. Like, I'm a very good driver. But my heart was thumping. My fear response was, like, kicking. This was all the money, the free money that I had. And so I took a moment and I just closed my eyes and I said, is this the most beneficial, RV for me in this moment? And I got a yes, despite all of the fear. And that's when I knew it was the right decision to make. And you have to just decide at one point, I'm going to start trusting myself. Now, I can understand if you have been dealing with trauma or chronic overwhelm or something like that that involves your emotions, just relying on your excitement sometimes doesn't work. So, going and finding a technique like that you can practice on the little things so that you can be sure about yourself in the big things, like, is this the most beneficial thing for me to drink for breakfast or eat for breakfast? Or is it most beneficial for me to take a walk right now? Like, build yourself up slowly. And then you can relax into knowing that these bigger decisions are going to work out for you. Another thing I would highly recommend, prime yourself for making good decisions. This has worked wonders for me. As someone who was always paralyzed at making decisions when I was younger, my mom has this joke where she was going to put wallpaper up in my room and she gave me the book of wallpaper. And I cried and cried and cried. And for weeks, I could not pick this wallpaper. And finally, she was just like, okay, we're doing this one. Because it was just impossible for me to make the decision, even with that, because it had to be the right one. So I've been there. But Abraham has a saying, which is also a resource listed below. Anything Abraham-Hicks. Things are always working out for me. Things are always working out for me. Things are always working out for me. If you can start to believe that, then you will feel less stress when you're making a decision, because even if something goes wrong, you'll understand that you can handle it. Lots of stuff went wrong with that RV. Lots of stuff. Just buying the RV and having that be the right decision didn't take me out of the equation. I still manifested lots of fluke things because I was still scared. So you're going to take yourself with you. And until you can smooth out all of this kind of bumpy vibrational stuff, things are going to come up. That doesn't make it wrong that you chose that. So things are always working out for me. Life is going to happen. I'll be able to handle it. I know what I'm doing. I make good decisions. All of this stuff is going to help you in the long run.
I was just thinking, well, one that I'm thinking about, you said like bumps in the road came up. And so I'm like, yeah, so it doesn't matter what car you bought, right? Like whether you bought a brand new RV or the clunky old RV, the next things still were going to happen. Like all of the opportunities for growth that showed up for you, Rachel, would have happened no matter what you drove. And so, Melissa, if that is helpful for you, great. The other thing that I found, I just did this yesterday with a girl on my team because she has extreme anxiety, and she's like doesn't ever want to disappoint anybody, and she always wants to do everything extra, right? So for a lot of kids, they like, if you give them the choice of like, well, do you want to do more or do you want to do less? Like she's always gonna be like, I'll do more, right? Like she's that kid. And we have been in conversation about like, hey, this is where we need to keep you. This is like, and so I'm understanding that like boundaries for her are really important, that I can't leave everything up to her. Where like some kids, I'll be like, you got one more in you. That's an opportunity for them to decide. For her, there's no decision. She will say yes, no matter what. So yesterday I was like, hey, let's just check in with your body. Where are you? Does it feel like a good idea to, because I was like, you've got choices today. And she had 2 or 3 choices. And then I narrowed it. I think she had 3 choices initially. I'm like, okay, I narrowed it down to 2. Do you want to run X amount of minutes or do you want to do yoga today? And she was like, I don't know. I can't make the right choice. I don't know. I said, okay, if you can't choose, that's fine. I'll choose for you. I'm going to have you do yoga today. And then she knew. It was like once I told her what the choice was, she was like, actually, my body wants to run. And I was like, cool, then go running. And because we've done this before where I'm like, okay, you're doing yoga today. And she feels relief and she knows, okay, that was the right choice for her. So that could be a fun game to play when you're deciding, because I see Melissa saying my gut flops for yes and no. So sometimes a really fun way to do it is to assign a value to the coin. So heads, I buy this car. Tails, I buy that car. And then throw the coin in the air, catch it. And before you look at it, well, one, you could just let the coin decide, but usually before you look at it, you know the one you're hoping for. Or after you look at it, you feel disappointed. Cool, then buy the other one. Like, that is a great way to check in with yourself, to trick yourself into figuring out what you really want.
I love that. Yeah, and I really love the yes no technique. If you search my name or you go to my channel and just type in yes no technique, you'll find it. And I love it because it's simple and it's you. It's you learning to trust the sensations in your body. But a lot of people use a pendulum or that like hand break apart thing or the like leaning forward or backward thing. Like there's a lot of different things you can do. Um, See what works for you. And ultimately, it really is about priming yourself to trust yourself over time. It doesn't happen overnight, but it makes a unilateral difference in your life when you can rely on yourself. Like, think about that. If you're going through your life unable to rely on yourself, you're giving all your power away. That doesn't feel good. So, it's understandable that it wouldn't feel good to make a decision because it feels out of control. Like you have no way of tapping into what the good decision is because people are untrustworthy. People have their own interest at heart. You don't know about the car. It could be great. It could be not. Like take some power back by investing in yourself and investing in that trust over time, and it will really pay off.
I'm just reading Melissa's comments, and I'm also thinking about you and Gertie. And this is maybe it is about overwhelm. Like I'm getting the sense that this conversation, it's a little bit about urgency. It's the urgency that has you feeling overwhelmed. And so a vow that I made to myself recently was that, well, in the past 10 years, is that I'll never make a decision out of fear of loss. And so, or fear of missing out. And so if it feels like, so like with Gertie, right, you felt like I have to make this decision or I'm going to miss out. So you luckily had your yes no technique where you could relax and check in and say, is this the most beneficial thing for me? But like I have learned that there is no amount, if it feels like I have to decide, like have to pressure on me to like make the decision right in this red hot minute, the answer is no. Like I just know that. Like, and sometimes my no eventually becomes a yes because the other guy didn't pan out or it like, but I can relax and know that if I feel like I am being forced to make a decision before I know, it's a no. And then so many things have worked out because I was like, yeah, no, I didn't know this, but it is a really good negotiation tactic. Like I was just honoring myself like, whoa, I got to walk away. I can't do this right now. And then that works amazing. But if that is helpful to you, Melissa, to realize like you're not going to miss out. You're not going to miss it. This isn't like, if you say no to this car, an even better one will show up. You can relax and you can trust yourself.
Yeah, and like what you were talking about sounds a lot like this hurrying procrastination loop with dysregulation. Like I was so convinced a couple months ago that I had to buy a new car. And I was all excited and I was looking at them and I was like, oh, I can, which one is the perfect one? Which one do I want to buy? And, do I want new or used but it felt urgent. It felt compulsive. And luckily I didn't do it. Would it have been the worst thing in the world if I bought a new car? No, it would have been like, it probably would have been fun. I would have enjoyed it, but did anything bad happen for me to wait and realize like, hey, you know what? Maybe I actually don't want a car right now. I'm fine. No, nothing bad happened at all. So we have a lot more options than our brain will sometimes think. And taking a step back to like calm down again and like recenter can often be helpful. And it can also show us options that we didn't think we had. Sometimes we think we have to do something right now because if you don't have a car, what are you going to do? but there's like carpooling and getting to know coworkers you never thought you would like, or, you know, public transportation, walking, lifts, like renting a car. I found when I was without a car for about a month a couple of years ago, in between finding Gertie and selling my old car, I actually really enjoyed getting to know my neighborhood that I thought was pretty unwalkable. But here I was walking to all these different places and like seeing people's yards and saying hi to my neighbors. And that's not going to be the story for everybody. That's not possible for everyone. But I'm just saying, when you're in that heightened state, you're not seeing all the available opportunities and solutions. So if you can take a step back and calm down, then you can rise to the solution level and something easier and better will come in.
I am loving this. I'm reminded of so many things in my life, but it is also helpful because I'm so like many of us, my trauma and my partner's trauma are like often perfect matches for each other in all the wrong ways. And and it can be comical, but I was reminded of a time when um I was I was irritated with my partner to begin with because I really needed to like get a workout in, and I had a plan in my mind of how and when I was going to do that. And then he had people come. Our workout stuff is in the garage, and he had people like coming to work. Like it worked in his schedule that people were coming into the house to work on the garage in the garage at that time. But he hadn't like asked me or told me. So like I had a time of day of a small window to like get my workout in, and I go out there and I can't. And I'm like, damn it. So then I met him, like he didn't know. And so then and he probably had a million things going on too. One of his fun habits is he likes to overschedule. I think it maybe helps him feel like in control. So anyways, so he had too much going on, and he likes to overschedule and delegate. I don't like to be delegated to. So therein lies our fun conflict. But I was in my office with the door closed. I feel like everyone was home for some reason. So like I had this desperate need for a little bit of me time, and there were people in the garage, and there were people in the house, and there were like people everywhere. And I just needed to get my workout in. So I was feeling probably PMSy and cranky and all of it. So I decided to do yoga. And I remember like being in here and doing yoga and like having the door closed, and like I just needed my like 20 minutes of silence. And right in that red hot minute, like my husband was like, well, we got to make this decision. We have to. And it was like a non-decision. And I was like, can this wait? I do not want to talk about this right now. And he was like, no, this is important. This is super important. Because he was in that like hurry. And I'm procrastinate is my, so he was like, it has to be decided right now. And I have this like total memory of him coming in here while I'm doing yoga, because I'm like all pissy. So I'm like kind of acknowledging him. Like, and of course, like the irony, right, is I'm doing yoga to be like centered and relaxed. And instead, like everything is happening. And long story long, I'm like doing yoga, and he says to me, like, this is important. And I said back to him, I do not think there's anything more important than me doing yoga right now. Like I was super clear on that, but he couldn't hear that at all. And so he was like, okay. And I remember he was talking really loud. And that is also like when I'm always saying like, stop yelling. He's like, I'm not yelling. But like, that is when something feels important. Like he raises his voice. So anyways, imagine this, you guys, I'm like trying to be peaceful yoga. He's standing like right next to me, like practically yelling. I won't say he was yelling, because for him, there's probably like an intent to yell, but like yelling, like something silly about, okay, well, the contractor needs to know, like whatever it was. Anyways, I was just like, whatever. Yeah. Like to me, it was like such a non thing. But for him, it was like, this is urgent. You need to hurry up and make this decision right now. And the decision for me was super easy. It was whatever will get you out of this room the fastest. And it worked out great, and everyone is happy. And I got my yoga in. I don't really remember why I told you that story now. Something about activating each other's trauma. But yeah, for your amusement, people.
Well, what I love about your story is that you didn't let it activate yours. Like, you found a solution, you did not stop your world to deal with him because that's what he wanted you to do.
Which
That
was
takes
our old
time.
pattern, right? That was the thing that I
Yeah.
used to do and then be resentful.
Well, I'm saying, yeah, like it's not a lot of people get to that point. Like we think we're invalidating other people if we don't join them in their trauma. We think we're being mean to them. We think we're being disrespectful. They think you're being disrespectful if you don't join them in their trauma. But there's another way. You can stand in your truth, even if you're annoyed. I'm sure she was annoyed when she was trying to do her yoga, but you don't have to join them. And it doesn't mean that you're being mean. It means you're holding your vibration. It means you're holding yourself in your own boundaries, in your own alignment, in your own truth. That is the best thing you could do for anyone else. I mean, this is a huge topic. Maybe we could talk about this next time, but I don't know. Like, yeah, here's a little. I mean, we're almost at time. My parting words, but we can discuss more. Give yourself credit for how far you've come. Look like Carrie. She was able to do that. She was able to hold her own while her husband was not yelling next to her when she needed a moment to herself. And her plans had been foiled. That's triggering. Don't get stuck. You don't need to get stuck. The getting unstuck part comes with elevating to the solution level. Calm down, find some peace, use distraction intently. If you are in a funk, if you're in a pattern, find something to get you out. Like, I love watching funny videos or comedies or reading. Like, use distraction to your advantage so that you can raise up your mood, your vibration to the solution level, and try to relax and enjoy. Like, when we're in patterns of overwhelm and avoidance, oftentimes we have no free time because we're always shooting ourselves into being more productive and doing the things that we're putting off. So if you can schedule in time, even if you have to do it on your calendar and be like, for this 15 minutes, for this hour, I am getting to relax. Everything else I will rethink about, re-engage with after this, if that's where you're at, if that's what you have to do, because right now I need to relax and enjoy myself. So you can bargain with yourself until you've ironed out these patterns. And again, I would highly recommend going to Crappy Childhood Fairy or a therapist, or like find someone who can help you deal with the underlying causes of these patterns. I got myself to a point that was, great on my own, as far as I could get on my own, until I needed to learn about some of this stuff to really help me gain awareness and like untangle from these patterns. And I did join her membership, which is really affordable. It's like $59 a month to just go deeper into some of her courses and see if there's more that I can learn there. So there's solutions out there. They don't have to be out of reach. But if you've gotten yourself to the point where you're like, all right, this is as far as I can take myself for now, and I feel like I want to find some more solutions, they're out there for sure.
So one, I'm just noticing I'm wearing a shirt that says believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And Jana, thanks, Jana. So remember, believe in yourself. You can trust yourself. And I love what you said about elevate to the solution level, because that has helped me so much. Like, your voice echoes in my head a lot when I'm trying to, like, I feel like I can't move on until I figure this out. And I hear you saying, like, the solution is not available to you from where you are. Like, you must move on before you can figure this out. That has been so helpful. And so the reminder that what you just said about elevate yourself to the solution level and find time to relax. I had such massive shifts when I recognized, and this is what we talk about in aligned up level and aligned income, right? That actually is the only thing. That is the most important thing. It is the thing that I continue to push off my calendar. Like, it takes constant practice, but it is like, life works better when I prioritize feeling good, when I prioritize meditating, when I prioritize relaxing, and remembering that relaxing or grounding, putting my feet in the grass, or whatever the habit is for you, or journaling, whatever it is for you, that isn't luxurious. That is essential. That is me elevating to the solution level. So oftentimes we go at it the other way. So I guess my question is, what is the elevate to the solution level for you? Put that first on your list.
Yeah. And what that means is what makes you feel better. That's it. A walk, a funny video, calling a certain friend, and not venting, but like, I mean, maybe venting is part of it to get to relief, but like you want to talk to people who are uplifting. So whatever could make you feel better, make a list of it, like Carrie said, and then you can choose. When you're in a funk, open it up and be like, okay, this feels like I can get to it right now. Because we all know when we're not feeling good, we're not going to straight to euphoria or joy. Like we need to scale it up a little bit at a time. So that's why I say distraction. Distraction is not necessarily a negative word. It's how you use it. I use distraction a lot. I mean, a lot less now, honestly, but like there's nothing wrong with that. It is a way to find solutions. It's a way to change out of a negative space and get into a neutral or positive space. So we got some questions I just want to talk about.
Well, yeah. So Shauna has a suggestion for next time. I'm on board with that. That has actually been a topic that Rachel and I have also been talking about. So awesome.
Yeah.
And also, yes, Dale, Shauna was right.
Yeah. Crappy Childhood Fairy has a membership group. It's $59 a month. You can go to her website and find all about that. She has other things too. You could just buy separate courses if you'd like to. And we do also have a membership, me and Carrie. So if you'd like to join our aligned income mentorship, you can go to intuitiveart.com/membership and you can learn all about it. And it also comes with lots of courses. Right now there's 4 calls a month in the group, some with Carrie, some with me, some with both. And it's an immersive environment to help you reach that solution level in all areas. So it's very, very worthwhile.
It's freaking amazeballs. You should definitely join us. And
it is amazeballs.
It is Shayna, right? I said Shauna, and then I was like, it's Shayna, isn't it?
Yes. So yeah, thank you, everybody. Oh, we still have 7 minutes. Great.
Awesome. So what do you want to talk about? Like, do we dive into boundaries? Do you I feel like we could do a whole hour.
Oh yeah. So for all of you on the replay who couldn't see Shayna's comment, I would love for you to address next time or another time about how to put boundaries around our vibration when the other person tends to get offended by it. Whoa, we will definitely talk about this. Yeah, it affects everybody, right? Everybody.
I will give you a little preview and say that I remember hearing Abraham. This was a hard pill for me to swallow because I really did want to blame the other person. Abraham say the strongest vibration wins. Mm-hmm. And that really helped me. And then I also remember listening to Wayne Dyer talk about how he would practice. For some reason, what is supermarkets are a theme today. Because I remember that he would talk about, he had a story about being in the grocery store and watching a mother and child and like see that it was really going downhill. And I think the mom was feeling judged and the kid was, and that he just practiced being a vibration of love and peace and expanding that vibration. And he saw like the results of that, of being the strongest vibration. And he saw like the conflict kind of resolve and like everything got smoothed out. And like what was happening in the exterior world changed as he perceived as a result of his intentional vibration toward these people. And so those two things, like remembering that story And then remembering the strongest vibration wins. Be the stronger vibration. And there's a lot to talk about in that, but that has been really helpful for me.
Yeah. I think it's probably impossible to have a truly fulfilling relationship with any person whatsoever if you can't hold yourself to where you want to be. I mean, this is something that I'm learning still, of course. Like, I don't think we really master relationships because there's always another one coming to challenge where you're at, in a way. Not that every relationship has to be a challenge, but like, I mean, why are we here if not to continually learn more about relationships? And I don't even believe like life is a school and we're learning here. Like I think we're here to enjoy ourselves and to, practice love and joy and sharing and everything. But yeah, we just continually get to learn more about ourselves as we interact with people and refine these skills, so that we can enjoy all of our relationships more.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk a lot about this next
We
week. So
are.
thank you, Shayna, for that
Thanks, Shana.
topic. That was a really good one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how I'm feeling right now.
Okay.
Super relaxed. I want you to know that those of you who came feeling anxious or overwhelmed, I am practicing a very strong vibration right now for you guys, right? Of relaxation. And so I'm like sending that. I hope that you are feeling that as a result of being a part of this conversation, you're remembering the truth. You can be trusted. Everything is always working out for you. You can't get it wrong. You're always on your path. When you make a wrong decision, the path reroutes, right? Like if you make a wrong turn, you get rerouted. Like it's all working out and you can relax and you can be trusted. And when you really know that, you can participate joyfully in your life. Yeah, so that's what I'm sending your way, people. Don't worry, be happy.
Oh, one more thing that I have right at the top. This might be controversial. So only take this as truth if it resonates with you. But the more I go through life, just like Carrie is saying too, the more I realize that for adults, discomfort and pain are optional. I find that like the things that have continued to make me uncomfortable or give me pain, I'm choosing, or it's just something I haven't like untangled from, learned about yet. It hasn't become aware to me what the cause is, because my real self, my real authentic self is free from all of that. My aligned, embodied real self only knows well-being. So I'm not discomfort free. I'm not pain free completely, but I really know that for myself. Like I can choose pain, I can choose discomfort anytime I want, and there's no problem with that. Like we're here to live the full spectrum of being human. That's not looked down upon by our higher self. Nobody's judging us for that. But I'm just finding for myself, like realizing, like, oh, hey, if there's something uncomfortable happening, I can address it. It can be fixed. It doesn't have to be a forever thing. And just knowing that for me is important. Disclaimer: if you live with chronic pain, if you live with chronic trauma, if you live with all, I'm not just like invalidating you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you have to change. This was just like a personal epiphany for me. And I don't know how it's going to play out in my life, but it felt really good to feel it. And that's how I know it's right for me to feel. So that was like a pretty big thing for me to recognize and helpful. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Well, and now we're over time, but like to follow up on the story I told last week, remember I said I'm going into an uncomfortable conversation, but it won't be uncomfortable? That totally happened. Like it was not uncomfortable. I don't know if it was uncomfortable for the other person, but it was not uncomfortable for me. It was easy and relaxing. It felt like a little weird afterwards. And I was telling Rachel about it. Like, I think it felt weird because it was new. It was new to not feel uncomfortable after a hard conversation, which all it really was like telling truths that I thought would make someone else feel uncomfortable. And now I have another one coming up and I'm like super excited about it because I now know that the idea that it's going to be awkward or uncomfortable is just an idea, but like that exactly what you said, Rachel, like it's totally optional. And I'm also thinking about what I tell athletes, right? Which like in a race, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. like, and that's it. Like, okay, this case, it is like, oh, here I am faced with an old pattern. I can choose to make this old pattern awkward, uncomfortable, like tell the same old story around it. Or I could take a deep breath, remember that I'm taken care of, that everything's working out, and that like as long as I'm in my own alignment, it's all good. So there you go. Now we're 1 minute over.
I love that. And I actually think that's a better way to say it. Yeah. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Love it.
It's not mine. I some Buddha or Dalai Lama,
Yeah. Some
someone.
really smart person. I love it. All right. Well, we love you guys, and we'll see you next week for another live stream. Bye.